Okay, everybody, here we go. It's me. I'm in a pretty good mood right now. Why? Because I and I are together, and it makes me feel good. All right, look. So post market wrap on this freaking crazy Monday with a market that didn't know where it wanted to go, up or down or backwards or sideways. Uh, Monday, April 28th, 2025. We have a lot to cover. Some of this is uh, look, man, I'm actually I'm gonna come to President Trump's defense a little bit here, believe it or not. Yes, I am. All right, I am a guy who speaks the truth, and when things aren't exactly right, I will set the record straight, no matter how it is, and that's really the truth here. So, I mean, you guys and girls know how the lovely set of names that I had for Biden. I mean, I don't even want to repeat them. They were pretty bad. And I personally detested Bidenstein creature mummy man freak show that he was. And look, man, I tell it like it is. You guys and girls know me. Thank you, Salty Dog. I was gonna ask that. Where's the hat? The hat only comes out in the morning. My hair's wet. Just get out of the shower. Anyway, so with that, I'm going to talk about a bunch of things here. What's happening? What's going on? And try to put this together. Let me start off with the market real quick. Okay, like I said, an extremely volatile day, all freaking over the place. But again, everyone's looking at the freaking Dow Jones Industrial Average, the S&P 500, the Nasdaq. Lovely, it's freaking beautiful. But we really need to be looking at the debt market. Look at this. Who's buying all this debt? The 10-year yield is cratering. We were 1.4 like a week or two ago. A lot of debt buying here, a lot of debt selling here. We got nations around the world dumping U.S. debt as if nobody wants it. Well, who wants U.S. debt? You don't. Who wants to hold the U.S. dollar? You don't. And we'll talk more about that in a second. Now, some people could say, well, this is a safety trade. It's not a safety trade. How do we know this is not a safety trade? Look at the dollar. The dollar got hit pretty good today. This is on a relative strength basis after nudging higher overnight. But if this were a safety trade, you would see, okay, you would see this kind of a movement in the 10-year yield down, but you would see a knee jerk here in the dollar higher. The dollar is telling us, it's screaming from here across the sky and around the world that it's dying. And the dollar is sitting here hoping for a lifeline, which is not going to get. You all know that. It's unfortunate. That means, again, a weaker dollar means the economy is going to suffer more so than it is now. It means you are going to pay more for every freaking thing. And we got, again, some interesting stuff to cover. But that's the story with the dollar and the 10-year yield. This is where we ended the day with regard to the market. Okay, nothing major. The Dow was higher, over 300 earlier, then was down across the board with the NASDAQ taking the biggest hit. Got a little bounce here. Now we got gold and silver higher and crude oil getting blasted again. The problem with crude oil is demand, and trucking around the world, especially here in the United States, massive slowdown in shipping and in trucking, and that's another reason why we're seeing this happen. So gold, silver getting a nice little boost here. Crypto is kind of mixed. Okay, lovely and fantastic. Now I want to cover some news with you guys, and then I want to really delve into the countdown to collapse. We're collapsing now, and a lot of people can't see it. They refuse to see it. They don't want to see it. I get that, and none of this is by accident. Again, we're being driven into the ground on purpose, and it's really about the currency mechanism in place, sucking it dry of purchasing power. It's a wrecking machine for the economy, middle class, small businesses. Again, it's a terrible thing to see and witness. And when you hear from world leaders, the president talking about, I demand lower rates, and we're going to weaken the dollar. I want to weaken. It's insanity on a grand scale. But I'm going to come to President Trump's defense here. This is the Wall Street Journal. All right. On the markets, investors send a no confidence signal. Now, let me read this to you real quick. This is the Wall Street Journal, again, not Greg Mannarino. The early economic performance of President Trump's second term is characterized by substantial market losses. Let's stop there for a second. And I'm going to defend President Trump here, okay? Not because I got some phone call or was visited by some men in black, because this is the flat out truth. This market is trading on multiples that make no sense at all, okay? It's a smudge of distortion. In fact, it's more like a stain of distortion across the sky as well. So the market coming down substantially, okay, this isn't a crash or anything yet. This isn't. Some of this is because of what's happening here with this changing of the thing that sits behind the Resolute desk. But the way the Wall Street Journal has structured it here, the Wall Street Journal is putting this all on President Trump. It is not all on President Trump, okay? This is a market that's gotten way ahead of itself, a market that needed to drop. And that's really somewhat of what we're seeing. Thank you, Clemente. I appreciate that. Yes, it is an engineered depression. We haven't seen anything yet. Hold that thought. So I just don't agree with the Wall Street Journal here. So again, let's cover this. This is the Wall Street Journal. The early economic performance of President Trump's second term is characterized by substantial market losses. Okay, well, you know what? He's not fully responsible for that. And I'm telling you the truth. Now, some of this, let's move forward. Policy-driven uncertainties, we can pretty much agree with that one, absolutely. And declining investor confidence, yes, to a certain degree as well. Distinguishing it as one of the more turbulent beginnings in recent United States president history. Yes, everything except the first part of this is more or less true. But what we've seen here in the stock market, this dropping here, this is not all President Trump's fault. And you know me, if it were, I would tell you. It's just not. That's just the way it is. But anyway, that's the Wall Street Journal. Now, I want to talk about this too. And it plays right into the Wall Street Journal. But again, look, they all got to put out the same kind of thing. Alan, what's up, everybody? Joe's here. Everybody's here. Now, I want to read this to you, and I want to decipher Market Watch. Again, so the Wall Street Journal is really hitting President Trump pretty hard here. And this is a takeoff from that, but this is Market Watch. U.S. economy suffers its worst start under a new president since the financial crisis. Well, this is actually true, but let us move forward. Let's talk about this. So this is what it says. While the U.S. economy has faced challenging starts under previous presidents, the early months of President Donald Trump's second term are marked as significant economic turmoil not seen since the financial crisis. Now, look, a lot of this is true. Okay, maybe they're overplaying it a little bit, possibly. But this is where it gets this is more truth here. Economic growth forecasts by the illustrious Federal Reserve, let's talk about that, have all been revised downward. The Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta projected a further decrease in U.S. GDP moving forward. We're already negative. We're going to be more negative. That's why war, spending hundreds of billions. What blows my mind, did you watch the video I did this morning? Only 30% of American citizens even know that we're in a new war in the Middle East that is now going on for 6 weeks, 24/7 around the clock. President Trump called it an annihilation. But only 30% of the American population even knows it. That's because the media is told what to say, when to say it. It's all a deception on a grand scale. But again, there's no doubt about it. Again, the Federal Reserve revising GDP forecast deeper into the negative. Inflation remains a major concern. Oh my, really? But the Fed was the same institution that told us this was going to be temporary and transitory. Remember all that? Now tell Greg Mannarino again, because again, I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna defend President Trump, not because I got a phone call, not because I got a visit for the men in black or anything like that, because it's the truth. Who's responsible for monetary policy? Is it presidents? No. Who's responsible for the economy overall? Is it presidents? No. Who's responsible for the financial system as a whole? Is it presidents? No. It's the central banks, in this case, the Federal Reserve. You understand? But But what else would you expect? Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. So the Federal Reserve has now projected core inflation to be higher than 3% moving forward. So what does that mean for you? Again, on top of the already baked in dollar weakness, on top of a weaker currency because of artificially suppressed rates, you can only imagine where this is going to go. But I just want to make sure you're understanding that not everything we're seeing here, okay, is President Trump's fault. And if it were, I'd tell you, you know that's true. This is pretty bad. This is Reuters. Trump's trade war is wrecking hope for a trucking rebound. I can't read this backwards. It's hard sometimes. All right. So let me read this to you. The U.S. trucking industry is experiencing a slowdown due to several factors. Ongoing supply chain disruptions, which are only going to get worse. An unstable economic environment, that's by design, and reduced freight demand. This has led to a freight downturn with reduced demand, particularly affecting domestic manufacturing. We're not manufacturing anything here. We need the infrastructure to be built. This is how this should have played out. Let me outline this for you guys and girls. When President Trump said we're going to bring back manufacturing to the United States, the first thing that needs to be done, and tell me if this makes sense to you, is build the infrastructure. We didn't do any of that. Okay, so President Trump told you we're going to bring it back without having any plan whatsoever as to first implement the infrastructure and then go ahead and blast everyone with these tariffs. It was totally, frankly, ass backwards. And I don't know who's pulling the strings. Yes, we all do. It's the Federal Reserve. But again, it's too stupid to be stupid. To have manufacturing come back here to the United States, it would take many months, maybe even years, of building the infrastructure first of manufacturing. Does that sound right to you? Or is Greg just completely out there? He doesn't know what he's talking about. We could just magically go, poof, here's a factory. Magically, poof, here's another factory. Poof, here's another one. You see what I'm saying here? So President Trump preyed on stupidity. Again, those people who believe we're going to bring it back and these factories are just going to become out of the ground. They magically were going to grow. We were going to pour some water on the ground and a factory would come up. I mean, these people were really duped on an epic scale. Again, you had to build the infrastructure first. We didn't do that at all. So big missing piece here. And yes, this is President Trump's fault. Why we're seeing this slowdown in manufacturing, why we're not exporting anything because we don't make it here, why we're not. Look, man, we are still an import nation on a massive scale. And what's happening here? Well, there's tariffs on pretty much everything. And you and I are going to pay for it in the form of a tax. Does that make sense to you? Sure it does. It has nothing to do about leveling the playing field because we can't. We don't make anything here. We needed to build the infrastructure first. Does this sound at all correct? Oh, yeah, it does, doesn't it? You see, bing, bing, bing. You're pretty smart. So that's with that. Now, let's move forward here, guys. Something in my mouth over here. Let's do this. Zolt, I appreciate you very much. I appreciate all of you. I really, really do. Am I still on here or did they kind of screw me up? It don't his fault, Greg. Hey, Tom, what does it don't his fault, Greg mean? I don't know what that means, dude. I'm just playing with you, but I know what you're trying to say. You guys and girls know what I'm all about. You got to joke around with this stuff a little bit. Now, look, I want to outline this for you. We're really, really there now, people. We've all been looking. Everyone's looking for a market crash. That's not the meltdown. The real meltdown is going to happen where? Where are you looking? Everyone's looking at the Dow. Everyone's looking at the S&P. Everyone's looking at the NASDAQ, not you. You're watching the debt market, more specifically the 10-year yield. Period. You're looking at what's happening to the dollar on a relative strength basis. It's collapsing through the freaking floor. As the dollar is no longer perceived as a safe haven. Other currencies now have taken that over. And the death of the dollar means the death of America. It really, really does. Honestly, the dollar has been looked at as a safe haven asset since its inception. But when you have a mechanism like this, with the dollar being destroyed, its purchasing power being robbed blind. No one wants to hold the dollar anymore. Again, you want to fix this? I'm going to tell you how to fix all this. Again, we already talk about solutions all the time, you and me. A few things could happen, but they won't. But we'll talk about it. But I want to outline this for you guys and goes, now listen, I'm going to tell you again for the 1,000th time, millionth freaking time. This is in your inbox right now. If you subscribe to my free newsletter, I get nothing out of this. Zero. Okay. It's free to everyone who has enough brain cells to follow this stuff. Okay. It's for free for all of you. Okay. So if you feel like subscribing, which I really think you should, there is a link in the description of this video. This is in your inbox right now. I'm going to cover it. I'm going to do what I usually do because, I can't get all my thoughts down here. All right. But I want to read this to you. So, countdown to total collapse, which would include the stock market. Again, the stock market is a different animal. The gap between the stock market and the economy, we are now beyond the borders here. We're far beyond the sun. Shout out to Ingmar Malmsteen. That man can play. Anyway, so Lions. Just about a month ago, I said that 6 months from that time, giving us less than 5 months as of right now, the U.S. economy would be unrecognizable from where we were then and where we are now. Things are coming apart faster. Over the last month, things have gotten much worse. You just wait for the next 5 months. Now, yesterday, my markets are look ahead. People, I did a whole breakdown for you again. Yesterday, I did a follow-up in a video where I discussed the next 6 months, okay, from here with regard to currency devaluation and debt expansion. If you didn't see that video, I would really suggest that you watch that and you'll get a better understanding on that. Now, what I've outlined for you right here is happening and it's happening fast. So I wrote, Lions, I would really appreciate it if you would share this work. So let's start off with this. The U.S. economy, you know this, but let's just talk about it, is already broken at its foundation. The foundation of the economy comes down to what? What is the foundation of the economy? What does it come down to? Purchasing power of the currency. It's a fact. People, look, man, you want me to tell you one more time? Economics and Finance 101. Economics and Finance 101. To have a strong economy, you need a strong currency. Does that ring true to you? Of course it does, because it's a fact. Number 2, economics and finance. To have a strong currency, you need a corresponding rate of interest high enough to support the purchasing power of the currency. So when you hear a president, a politician, a central banker say, you know what? We need to get in here. We need to cut rates. What they're telling you indirectly, because they can't tell you the truth, is we're going to weaken the currency. Weakening the currency is an economic wrecking machine. Henceforth, why the middle class is being eradicated, why small businesses are being erased, why U.S. farms cannot compete. You understand? It's over. It's over. Why we can't bring manufacturing back here to the United States. It's not just about the fact that we do not have the infrastructure. You know, when President Trump was running for president, although it was a selection, there was no election here. How come he didn't mention building infrastructure? I watched virtually every single one of President Trump's little rallies that he had. Jonathan, thank you. Dude, that's exactly what we should do. We should be, we'll erase the Fed if we all start buying gold and silver. But anyway, there was not a single mention once about building infrastructure. We're going to bring manufacturing back with no plan to do it. Again, President Trump realized he was talking to masses with a very low IQ. And they would basically believe whatever he said because many people believed that he was sent from the Almighty, which we know he was not sent from the Almighty. He was sent from a very dark place. All the lies, all the deceptions are from the dark side. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. Anyway, going back to this, what we were discussing here. The U.S. economy is already broken at its foundation. The fractures were hidden under false prosperity, but now these cracks, which are windows for you and I, they are too wide to hide. Now, we are entering a full systemic meltdown. U.S. farms, small businesses are dying. Corporate and private sector layoffs are accelerating. Consumer debt is exploding and currency purchasing power is evaporating. This mechanism is not going to stop. Remember what I said, 30%, only 30% of the American population even knows that we're in a war 24/7 now going on 6 weeks, hundreds of billions of dollars. That's what it's costing you. You're paying for it all, okay? And this is currency purchasing power negative. Where do we get the cash from? We don't have a stash of it. It comes right from the Fed. President Trump has to get on the phone with Powell and say, listen, we're running a new war. And they're the ones that are, all wars are banker wars. Are we on the same page? All right, Powell, I started your new war. I need to finance it. I need a lot of cash, hundreds of billions. Can you make sure we got it? Don't worry, Donnie boy. We got you covered. You see what I'm saying? That's where it's going. So anyway, here's a big one, and this is what we're seeing right now, looking at the debt market, watching what's happening to the dollar. Credit markets are under increasing strain, and you and I have been talking about this for a very long time. The liquidity that keeps everything moving, consumer credit, corporate bonds, government borrowing is under growing stress, and this, my beautiful friends, is going to get even worse as everything you can imagine and think about, and even have nightmares over, is going to be instituted to keep the flow of credit or debt moving higher. You understand? That means they're going to kill the economy by diluting the currency to do it. Again, we're being sacrificed to make us slaves to the debt system, which we have here. Again, only to issue in a new one. And this is as clear can be. Geopolitical shocks, wars, tariffs, alliances collapsing will further destabilize supply chains, energy flows, and global trust in the US dollar system. Are we on the same page, or did I lose some of you yet? Let's move forward. Now, this is what I want you guys and girls. This first little paragraph or sentence. Most Americans, again, only 30% know we're at war right now in the Middle East, a new war under Donald Trump. Most Americans will not realize the full scope until it's too late. But is this new? No, it's always the same story. People are always the last to know. And then they wonder, what happened? Why wasn't I told? Because a politician ain't going to tell you this. Central bankers aren't going to tell you this. Again, the mainstream media, they're all controlled. They're not going to tell you this. You got to look for this stuff yourself. You know what I'm saying? You got to pay attention to what's going on. Raise your awareness, like I've been telling you for 1,000 years. Most Americans will not realize the full scope or even anything until it's too late. By the time the headlines scream crisis, well, it's already too late and to stop anything. Now, here's a series of my calls here that I listed for you, which we're going to see moving forward. And then, of course, the number one solution. Let's talk about this. These are my long-range calls, number one. And some of these are too stupid. I mentioned them just out of completeness, but some of them are just too stupid. Number one, rising unemployment. People, we're going to see waves of it already. We already know. A lot of these major corporations are laying people off. They're going to be laying more off. They've instituted hiring freezes. And small businesses are going away. They're not hiring anyone. So there you go. The backbone of a free society, entrepreneurship and small businesses, is being erased in favor of what? The corporate agenda. Do you see where we're going? Or is Greg really freaking out there? All right. Rising unemployment, persistent inflation. Another, even while the economy continues to shrink around the world, not just here. Massive increase in credit delinquencies from car loans, credit cards, mortgages, everything you can dream about. We're already people having to now resort more than they ever have into buy now, pay later for their groceries. Let us move forward. You and I, and this is the truth, before the mainstream media, before anybody on YouTube or anywhere else called the regional bank failures that they would happen, and they have. But you think we're done? Oh no, we're not done. More regional bank failures still ahead, people. It's not over. You got to get your cash out. I'm telling you right now. The smaller in these regional institutions, they're going to be absorbed into the collective as power is consolidated in fewer hands. I suggest you taking your cash out of the banking system for the most part. Getting your cash into what? What have I told you repeatedly over and over and over and over? A credit union. Credit union. They're safer because they don't have the derivative exposure. They have zero derivative exposure, not like the big banks do. You understand? So only keep what you need into these institutions and look at a credit union. All right. So more regional bank failure still ahead. It's not over. Government expansion or rescue programs. As this collapses further, we're going to see more of this here. And this will lead to even more debt explosion / expansion. Now, a big one. Big one. An accelerated currency crisis. We're already in a currency crisis, not just here in the United States, but around the world. What are central banks doing? What has Greg Mannarino told you for over 10 years? Central banks are what are they doing? They're in a race to the bottom. Who can kill their currency faster? And they're laughing at us because you and I are paying for it. When they kill, you have to understand, this is how a central bank works. Think of how diabolic this is. When a central bank works to kill their currency, it gives them the opportunity to create more of it. And currency, these are units of debt. When a central bank, any of them, and collectively this is what they're doing, they're killing the currency, they're killing it. And then now they have even puppets like President Donald Trump, the duppy, okay? He's still a duppy, sent from hell. That's where he's sent from, okay? That's who he answers to, the devil, period, because he can't tell you the truth ever. It's all about lies and deceptions and distractions. When you have a politician working with a central bank saying we're gonna lower rates, weaken the currency, that means that central bank is going to get to do what it wants to do. That is, issue more of its product to the world and to you. If you live here in the United States, the Federal Reserve will become stronger. Every dollar a central bank, in this case the Fed, is called on to issue via the mechanism of artificially suppressed rates, they get stronger, not weaker. And President Trump working with the Fed to destroy the economy because weaker currency is a wrecking machine, you know that, will bring the Fed higher into the pyramid of power as they consolidate power and then again issue in the new system. Henceforth, again, why we're being the crypto capital of the world, not the constitutional money capital of the world. Why we're adding cryptocurrencies to the strategic reserves. Why we're not adding gold and or silver to the strategic reserves. Because this would be anti-Fed. Cryptocurrencies is exactly what the Fed wants to do, is a bridge to their tokenized system. Sound right to you? If we would add gold or silver, well, that would be anti-Federal Reserve. That's why President Trump and Elon Musk rushed over to Fort Knox to see if the gold was there. You remember how fast they went there? They didn't go there at all. Okay, it was all a ruse, again, to get you riled up. Is the gold there or it's not there? They don't care if it's there or not because it doesn't matter, because the system is being transformed, is being bridged from cryptocurrency into full tokenization. The Fed is even talking about the dollar now as a token, as I discussed this morning. You see where we're going with this? I hope you guys and girls are understanding what I am talking about. Anyway, a big one. Accelerated currency crisis, a breaking point for the US dollar. Broken intentionally. And then they're going to tell you what? Don't worry, everyone. We have a solution for you. Don't worry. It's always the same. Problem, reaction, solution. Problem, reaction, solution. One more time together. Problem, reaction, solution. It's what they are going to spring on all of us here. Faith in institutions, government, the Federal Reserve, markets will collapse much more severely than 2008. The stock market, again, disconnected from reality on a scale that we've never seen. But reality can't be ignored. You understand? At one point, this is going to get very, very real. And we know this because we're watching the 10-year yield. You see what's happening right now? Dropping. This is going to be an uncontrolled sell-off in the debt market that's going to spin people's heads around like what? Like The Exorcist, like they always tell you. Bond yields are going to spike out of control. 20, 30, 40, maybe even 50 basis point jumps higher in a day. It's going to melt down stock markets around the freaking world. Cash is just going to move from one reality into another. Debt market, inferno, burn down. The stock market's cash is going to move into commodities, people. You know that. These are real things, okay? As the dollar gets decimated, as commodities are priced in dollars, you can only see what I'm talking about. Do you see how simple this is when you connect the dots? Pretty simple. Now, people, you're going to ask me, are there solutions? Are there solutions to this? Yes, people, and we talk about them all the time. If we understand that the backbone of the system is being attacked, and that is the currency itself. The first place that we would need to start is returning purchasing power to the currency. Does that make sense to you? Let's think about what I'm saying here. Just as if, for example, President Trump were a real president. And if President Trump would to say, you know what, we got to build infrastructure here in the United States to rebuild industry, to bring back manufacturing. He didn't say that. He just said, we're going to bring it back with no plan to do it. Again, why? He works for the Fed. He was put there to twist your mind into thinking, well, hold on a minute. These factories are going to just grow out of the ground. By magic, we're going to wave a wand and they're just going to be there. It doesn't happen like that, unfortunately. So you got to build the infrastructure first. In this case, the infrastructure is the currency. We really do need to return to a constitutional money system. I always point to that. That's the USS Constitution. That I put that there for a reason. Okay, that ship, the USS Constitution. Okay. We're not returning to a constitutional money system. President Trump, as you all know, I'm going to tell you again, he could end the Fed in a matter of, how long does it take you to sign your name? You say 5 seconds? It probably takes President Trump 5 seconds to sign his name. If President Trump were to sign into law the Gold Reserve Act of 1934, what that means in 5 seconds, the Federal Reserve is gone. 5 seconds. I don't know how long it takes. It maybe takes him 7 seconds because it's kind of scribbly. I don't know what it is. Let's say it takes President Trump 7 seconds to sign his name to institute the Gold Reserve Act of 1934. Gone is the Federal Reserve. Gone is the debt-based system, because what that would allow us to do is monetize the gold. President Trump could revalue the gold. Again, you know this already, at whatever he wants. What has Greg told you? $50, $60, $70, $80,000 an ounce. Okay. Then back the dollar. 7 seconds, the Fed is gone. They're all out of a job. Okay. Think about that. But that's not what's going on here. We're being bridged into a new system, cryptocurrency, blah, 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 blah. Fed is the man. The Fed and Trump are working together to destroy us all, to bring us to our knees, so we beg for a new system, unfortunately. So the backbone here to build infrastructure, again, going back to the analogy, President Trump, he didn't talk about building factories. He talked about just bringing them back. No plan to do it, though. Unbelievable. But his people were duped and they lied and they believed it. I mean, I have to say, I really do have to say, and I'm not saying these are President Trump supporters, but the MAGA people, those, they're out there, man. They're really dumb. That's not you. You can support Trump if you like to. I didn't support Biden. I didn't like Kamala at all. Would it be any better with them? I don't think it would be any better, because it's not them pulling the strings. They just needed a spokesperson that would help them along with their plan. And of course, they got the guy that is helping them more so, I think, than probably the other ones would have. But it doesn't matter. It still would have ended up the same way. So the solution here is to rebuild from the ground up. And to rebuild from the ground up, we need to return purchasing power to the currency. What does that mean? The polar opposite of what President Trump is saying with the Fed. We need to cut rates. We need those. I demand the lower rates. This is Trump. Demand. The Fed's going to lower rates. We all know that, because that allows them to inflate and it allows them to destroy the currency, and they get to issue more currency. Sound about right to you? Of course it does, because you're smart. We would need to do the polar opposite, and I mean dramatically raise rates right now, because there's nothing right now being put in the way to stop the tsunami of inflation that's coming at us. I can't think about it. Obama, Trump's last term, Biden creature, and now Trump again. The new war that we're in, hundreds of billions. If you look at the last few, Obama, you look at Trump, you look at Biden creature, and what Trump is doing now, we've never seen in the history of the world. Again, take every president prior to Obama, going back to George Washington. These four now, well, it's three, sorry, have more than double the debt. You think that's just by chance, just by coincidence? No, I've told you the mechanism. The debt must expand, inflate, or die. They're killing us so they can survive. Central banks. Are we on the same page? Or is Greg still kind of out there? Exactly. Print. That's all they're going to do. So again, to rebuild the infrastructure, to rebuild the economy from the bottom up, we need a strong currency. Let me say something. If I were to ever dream of running for president of the United States, the first thing I would do is rebuild the currency. I'd bring back purchasing power to the dollar. Now, what would that do? That would not only make your life easier, you would have to work so hard to make ends meet because your dollar would have more purchasing power. Investors around the world, other nations would want to hold that dollar. That's not what we have now. It's being dumped. People are looking to circumvent the dollar. This is what I'm saying makes sense to you right now, honestly. You see, but because if we had a real president, that's what the real president would do. He would say, we're going to make America great again. Absolutely. But we're going to make it great by rebuilding the infrastructure, which means let's start with a stronger currency. Does that sound right to you, MAGA people out there? Of course it does. Because maybe you're starting to gain a few freaking IQ points by watching this freaking blog. Jonathan, thank you. I believe you're right on that one, dude. It's all a false flag. Everything we're in is a false flag. The new war that we're in, just to pull cash into the system. Think about what we're saying here. Jonathan, think about what we're covered here. 30% of the U.S. population knows that we're in a new war. It's a false flag. It's allowing the Fed to inflate. That's it. You're right, Jeff. That's what we need to do. So anyone here, look, man, we covered a lot. And I hope you guys and girls, this is, again, everything is here for you. Everything you need here, I got your back. You all know that. So now that we're sitting here, I know, John, I'm watching the Dixie. I'm watching it all. Believe me, I'm watching it all. It's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing to see, man. It really, really is. We don't have real leadership anywhere. We're being destroyed. It's the Fed in this case is the real government. Central banks got the world by the throat and by the... See what I'm talking about? But you see, you and I, look, man, we know what the solutions are. It's not going to happen. The wheels that are in motion are too massive right now. I still believe that if we unify, all right, if we come together as one voice, we could punch holes through this whole thing. But that would require a lot of work. People, this is what I would like, all right? Those of you that are with me here right now, every single one of you, I got nearly 2,000 people sitting here listening. What I want is every single one of you right now that are listening to this video to share this video. Please give it a thumbs up if I earned it. Only if I earned it. Share the video everywhere on all your social networks. Talk to people. Hey, listen to this guy, Greg. You know, maybe he's a little zany from time to time and he wears freaky hats from time to time. But you know what? The guy's kind of got things together and he explains things in a way that make it understandable. We can do this if we just join forces. No, I, you and me, I, we're one, okay? This is not my thing. This is our thing. So you guys and girls who are here, get this out there. Really make an effort to start getting the work out there. People are waking up and they really are because they're suffering. People need leadership. Let me tell you something about that. As this thing comes apart, all of you out here have a voice and you follow this blog. I think you guys and girls have a very keen understanding of economics and finance, at least the basics, which is all you need to know. All the fancy freaking derivative, nonsensical credit default swaps and all that, it's nonsense. It's all garbage. You understand the basics of economics and finance, then you know how to rebuild the system. Again, the infrastructure, currency. We need to return purchasing power to the currency. So what really needs to happen here, when President Trump gets on his little tirades against the Fed or with the Fed, working with them, I demand lower rates. Why doesn't he go out on national television and sell us the case as to why we need that? Because he can't. Because there are too many smart people like you who would hear him say, we need lower rates. And you know what you're hearing is, we're going to weaken the currency. He doesn't make, you see, President Trump, he really tells you straight out, I want a weaker dollar. He tells you straight out, we need a weaker dollar. Why do we need a weaker dollar? So, because it helps the corporations because they can take advantage of the overseas exchange rate? How does a weaker dollar help you make ends meet or survive? It doesn't. But again, he says these things. Why do not people push back. Even the MAGA people. Explain this to me. Are they really that low on the IQ totem pole that they just don't want to push back? Are they afraid? What is it with these kind of people? I don't get it. I really do not understand it. All right, listen. Real quick, you guys and girls want to cover anything right here? The currency is too far gone to save. It isn't. I am sorry. We could fix the currency right now, and President Trump could do it in 7 seconds. Sign his signature. Enforce the Gold Reserve Act of 1934. 7 seconds. The Fed is gone. 7 seconds. Think about what I'm saying. In the time it takes him to write his name, the Fed is gone. So that's it, people. You guys understand? 5 seconds with an auto pen. Exactly, sold the dog. Maybe even less with the auto pen, right? I have no idea. But does this make sense to you guys and girls, what I'm saying? I really think it does. This is a long video going on for 40 minutes. Guys, listen, I know, Henry. You're 100% right. You see what Henry wrote here? Henry Bowman, his handlers won't allow it. Let me explain this to you guys another way. And I want you guys to research what I'm going to tell you. Okay. I've spoken about this many times, but I want you to think about this. Every person that is in the running for the presidency of the United States is vetted first. They sit before a board. We don't even know who this board is. On Wall Street, every president goes behind a closed door meeting. No cameras, no minutes, no anything. They sit there and they are vetted. They are interviewed. When they're there, it's decided who will win the presidency of the United States. Kamala went through it. Trump has went through it twice. Every president goes through this. Look it up for yourself. Do not take my word for it, but this is a fact. Every single president is vetted first. And they're vetted. Again, look, I did a whole piece on who really pulls the strings. You know what? I did a video about it. I wrote a paper on it. Okay. Those are the people that sit on this board, okay, who interview, I don't know what you'd even call it here, vet a prospective president. And they're the ones who decide which way an election goes. Understand? Anyway, guys, that's kind of it. All right, look, it's kind of a long video, but I love you guys. I mean it. Thanks for being here with me. I think we got this down. And please, like I said, people, share this stuff. I'm counting on you. This is not my thing. I'm the daddy lion, starting to look like more like a lion every freaking day. But this is not my thing. This is our thing, and we together can make a humongous difference in this world. And to me, that's what matters. Nothing else. Make sense to you? All right, I'm out here. We're kind of out here. 8 years of doom and gloom, and he's still listening. There's no doom and no gloom, buddy. I'm sorry that you look at it like that. This is about awareness. It's about taking action. It's about coming up with solutions. It's not about doom and gloom. People that look at this from a doom and gloom perspective, they're just afraid. And we should feel bad for them. I'll be honest with you. And I do kind of feel bad for PJR over here. But thanks for being here. I appreciate it. But let's turn this around, buddy. Today is a new day. Let me tell you something. Every second of every day is another moment to turn your entire life around. Okay, whatever you've done right now from a second ago, you could change it all. It's up to you whether you want to change it or not. You just got to take action, and it begins with a thought. That's all it is. Love you guys. All right, I'll see you guys in the morning as usual, and we got this. It's a Monday, but it already feels like we've been here for 1,000 years. But I do love being here with all of you. I really, really do. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you. All right, I'll see you in the morning.